Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to The Book right here on adfreeshows.com. And today we're joined by a member of wrestling royalty, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Crockett. David, how are you, man?
I am doing great. Hey, I'm alive. That's a big thing. That's a big thing nowadays. It's wonderful to be here, Conrad. It really is. And to talk about the book, our books. The red books, fans. It's gonna be interesting, Now I'm not like Conrad's buddy Tony Schiavone, who will make a sailor blush.
Yes.
As far as but yeah. I will try. I'll say, damn. Shit. There we go.
I can't. That sounded like Ric Flair right there. I can't believe we're fortunate enough to have what we have, and the whole concept of this is to just go revisit wrestling history in the handwriting it was originally written in. And this is such an old school way of doing things, but it's so wonderful. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. And I heard that these books existed from Ric Flair years ago. I guess Dusty Rhodes kept a set of books, and he was thinking about moving those before he unfortunately passed away. And I think before he did so, he managed to gift one of the years where he booked the Great American Bash to Hunter, who now runs WWE. And I thought, how cool would that be to see the actual handwriting for all these magical moments that we all grew up loving, and to see where the pen met the paper and this idea came to life. And then somehow, some way, as the world just continued to change, at least for me and my involvement in wrestling, I got to meet you, and you just casually mentioned, I've got Jimmy's red books. And I thought, wait a minute. Is he saying what I think he's saying? So tell us exactly what we're looking at here, the red books.
All right, the red books, I have to tell you, are basically, and I'll hold one up. This is a calendar for a book for 1985.
Yep.
All right, in it, I'm just going to pull a page. Handwritten, the matches, and also the gross of the city, towns that we're in, the matchups. And it also has, like where I'm looking here, Rocky Mount, Macon, Georgia, okay, Norfolk, Virginia, Whiteville, North Carolina. So, and bigger cities. And this is the Bible. It was started with my father. These red books, calendars, it's a full year, and he keeps all the telephone numbers, addresses, whatever in the book. And so this, you can go back, and it's basically history.
It is.
It is history. It is. And you can see how we progressed, how we took some dives, so to speak, how we were smart, how we were not smart, and how, let's say, the big cities started to overtake the smaller towns. In other words, you weren't going to Wheeling. Wheeling's a big town, but let's say you're not going to Tarboro, North Carolina,
wow,
or Florence, South Carolina, or Augusta, Georgia. But you're expanding. One reason we had to expand was because of events.
Right.
I didn't mind, being at home, but unfortunately, that was not the case. You had to expand to survive. So that's what happened. We eventually, in this, you can see the progression of agreements with Georgia Championship Wrestling. All right. St. Louis, Florida, Bill Watts, and it just progresses. That's why, in here, will have a notation that Ric Flair is out or Wahoo McDaniel's out. Well, we have sent him to one of the other areas.
Right. Well, we're going to be talking about 1985, and we're going to start at the very beginning today with January. And a friend of the show and a great team member here, Wesley Burleson, actually was able to scan in and photograph all of these pages individually, so fans will be able to watch along with us and sort of see what we've got here. And we greatly appreciate you loaning those to Wesley long enough for him to photograph them and just document them for history. And before we get going with January of 85, I want to remind everybody that the world is changing in professional wrestling. Starrcade was the granddaddy of them all. It happened in November of 1983. It was the precursor for WrestleMania. I know these days everybody talks about WrestleMania as if it's the biggest and baddest and greatest, but Starrcade actually preceded that. And it wouldn't be until March of 85 that the WWF would launch WrestleMania. And of course, along the way, they picked up the time slot on TBS. They purchased it, and Crockett was able to purchase it back. And unfortunately, some of that money helped fund WrestleMania. But hey, no matter what, Crockett was back on TBS come April of 85. And we're going to talk about that in a few months. But this first quarter of the year, we're going to take a look at what the business looked like without TBS. And I do want to mention, because I think this is important, you've often said before, and even your brother, who unfortunately is no longer with us, has said before that your dad actually ran the business out of his shirt pocket.
Yes.
And now we see this actual book. So can you sort of explain the difference between the shirt pocket and this Bible, as you called it?
All right. The shirt pocket was things that he wanted to remember, as far as also people that he wanted to talk to, wrestlers that he would like to see in the area or territory, as they were called then, and notes that he wanted to choose somebody out. You know, that you got to remember too, he was a multitasker, and to write down, you know, what finishes he wanted in all the different towns. You know, he would sort of make his hieroglyphics in the book that only he sort of knew. And he would put the gross, of course, in there, and he'd figure the payouts from that.
I just, I love thinking about the way the business used to be. And before we jump into it, I just want to remind everybody that while wrestling is what we're going to be discussing today, boy, your family promoted a whole heck of a lot more than just wrestling. You and I had a great chance to talk about this earlier this year when we were visiting in Tampa, and I really had no idea what else you guys promoted. Can you just rattle off some of the different opportunities and acts and things that you guys presented?
All right. Starting with my father, we had 72 dates a year on the Harlem Globetrotters. That was a handshake deal. Think about this, handshake with Abe Saperstein, who owned the Globetrotters at that time, and no real paperwork. They just agreed on what the percentage was and so forth, and 72 dates a year, you know, from Virginia all the way to the Florida Keys to the Mississippi River. That's what we did. And we'd work with different promoters to promote those, you know, especially trying to get a wrestling promoter to do another promotion in his area. We also had baseball, AA baseball, the Charlotte O's. Eddie Murray was one of those players, Cal Ripken Jr. We had ice hockey, the Winston-Salem Polar Twins. Also, we were part owners in the Charlotte Checkers. Then we did Dad did the big bands, Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller, Dick Clark, Caravan of Stars, which a lot of us old farts remember. That was Motown at that time. Country music, rodeo, ice capades, I think I said. Anything entertainment he did. You know, he also, one time, he had the Broadway production of My Fair Lady in Charlotte. And he only made let's say $150, really, after you pay everything. And I go, why in the world did you do that? And he said, if you're in the entertainment business, you provide entertainment. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets entertainment. Summer theater, that was always a loss for us. But there again, he said, entertainment. We provide entertainment for everyone, not just one group.
Well, how about that? I love talking about the way things were, and let's jump into it. Let's start on January 2nd. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina. This would have been at the Dorton Arena, where I think the Rock and Roll Express just had their last tag team match. And oh my goodness, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat came back. We've got $3,145 at the gate. And as we take a look at this page, the thing that jumps out to me that I'm sure a lot of our people watching along here on ad-free shows are going to have a question about, Fargo written at the bottom. Not a name we saw on TV a lot during this era, but I think that's Sonny Fargo, who was working.
Sonny Fargo, referee. Yep. Sonny Fargo was a referee, and he was a character. Sonny, he lived in, he lived at, close to Charlotte, and he was very dependable. He was really before Tommy Young, before Hebner.
I got you.
He is one of the original ones that I remember from my father.
Now, this page in particular is a TV taping. It doesn't necessarily notate that, but we would see the Barbarian over Sam Houston, right. Magnum TA over Masked Inferno, and you see that Masked Inferno wasn't originally supposed to be the opponent. You see it scratched, it's originally scratched out there. And what else jumps off the page to me is this is written in pencil. And that's often been something that people have joked about in wrestling and say, oh, this guy's got the pencil. This is really written in pencil. Whose handwriting are we looking at here? Is this your brother Jimmy's, or is this someone else?
Yes, it's Jimmy's. It's Jimmy's handwriting. Yeah, the thing is, you have to write in pencil because a lot of times you have to use the eraser. And really, at that time, there were quite a few wrestlers leaving, for Vince. So, you had to make sure you had the eraser ready. And some people, as you look down, there were several matches that were disqualification. I guess I'm looking on the first there. Some guys didn't want to do a job.
Right.
I've got Bob Roop and Ox Baker. And the thing is that, it's a business, it had to do with their ego. They felt, golly, I can't actually do, a job for this guy. Come on.
Talk to me about that, because I did skip over January 1st. It's a show at the Omni in Atlanta, but it feels as if this would have been something in conjunction with Georgia Championship Wrestling. Would that be right?
That is right. Yes.
So how would the business of that work? Like if we're running in their territory, it's their arena, but we're lending talent. I mean, you see lots of your talent on this program, specifically Wahoo McDaniel, Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes, Manny Fernandez. So those are all JCP stars, but they're on a show here for another promoter. Does Jim Crockett Promotions receive any compensation for that, or is this about just keeping the guys busy?
This is keeping the guys busy. And yes, we are compensated. Really, we were trying as hard as we could to get the television on TBS. Now, we were taking off. Jim Barnett and the Wards did a little double switch there to, Vince got the TV. So, we still honored our commitment to Ole and the people there in Georgia. So we started continually running in Georgia. It was to me, if you look at that Omni show, it doesn't tell me a lot. It's not I guess you might say a really big show. It doesn't grab you as some of the others would.
Right. Well, on the 2nd, this is your TV taping here in Dorton Arena, and man, You got some really cool stuff happening here. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's going to say that he wants a match with the NWA World Champion and with Ric Flair in 1985. And we would also see Dusty Rhodes say that he too wants the NWA World title, but Steamboat does deserve a title shot. And we would see a recap of a match that happened where we've got Don Kernodle taking possession of the U.S. flag in his Charlotte match, only to be attacked by Nikita and then double teamed. Of course, when Dusty makes the save, now we get a promo from Dusty, and he says the Russians can go straight to hell.
And I know sometimes my words are harsh, and I know that just now in my heart I have to say what I feel. And as far as I'm concerned, the Russians can go straight.
Again, this is 1985. We bleep the word hell.
Yep, that's right.
A different time.
Television has come. I mean, what we show on regular television, yes. It's amazing. Yeah.
This show in particular is also where we start to see the introduction of Baby Doll. Now, she's not on the show, but Tony Schiavone is going to be providing sole commentary for the show, and he's going to interview the television champion, Tully Blanchard, at the time, who says he's looking for the perfect woman. They post the address on the screen where he suggests women send in their photos, and Blanchard said he's going to pick the one that has everything that he could ever want. And this is super old school. I don't know that you could do something like this today, although Ric Flair might want to try it. But the introduction of Baby Doll here, this is well done. And it's kind of cool to take a look and see, well, this is where it all started.
It is. And the thing is, with Tully, as the NWA television champion, he really made that championship mean as much as the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yes.
To me, he knew how to really take it and defend it and program it. The Baby Doll thing, it really, that smirk of his and that laugh, and the way it was presented to the fans as far as pictures and the women, and then he picks Baby Doll, which shocked some people, but there again, she fell right into it.
The next day, we're in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. We've got a gate here of $3,278. Tommy Young is going to be assigned as the referee. See that at the bottom?
Yep.
And it's a steel cage match with Tully Blanchard and Manny Fernandez. Back in the day, did you guys keep cages in different parts of the town, or would you just transport it with the ring town to town, or how did that work?
We would transport it on a trailer in the back of the attached to the ring truck.
I got you. And here in 85, is that still Klondike Bill who's driving the truck, or is that somebody else?
That would be Wally Dusick.
Okay.
Wally Dusick and Klondike would tag team. We had Klondike going one direction, Wally going another, especially when we had to have fence matches. They were the ones that we trusted to put them up correctly.
Is that what it was called back in the day in the territory, fence matches?
Yes. You'll appreciate this, fans. You will too. The first time I took my wife, she was my girlfriend then, to a wrestling match at Charlotte Coliseum. It was a fence match, and she said, do they really fight with swords?
Oh, wow.
No, yeah. Honestly, I
love that so much. We see that Wahoo, we see in the notes here, he's actually booked out for Atlanta TV.
Yes.
And then as we go over to January 4th, as we turn the page there, we see he's booked out to St. Louis on the 4th. On the 4th, you guys have quite a gate here, $11,154. We got Magnum TA on the card, Dusty Rhodes on the card. The nice little stipulation in here that stands out to me. We've got JJ handcuffed to Magnum TA. We've often heard that JJ was sort of Dusty's booking assistant. Was that
he was?
Here?
He was.
What would that have looked like for him?
Oh, as far as in the office, he was in a separate office. Dusty had an office to himself. Matter of fact, it was JJ and Gene Anderson in one office. Sandy Scott would come in and out to the office. Sandy was a good representative for us. He was sort of like what an agent, I guess you would call, when he wasn't wrestling, and he was getting away from wrestling then. So it was really Gene and JJ, and then Dusty was in one office, Jimmy was in another, and I was in another office.
As far as the actual matches we're looking at, though, I just want to confirm. I know we've said this is Jimmy's handwriting, but these would have been matches that Dusty would have laid out, and this was his idea, and maybe notes were taken by JJ, or how does that?
Jimmy and Dusty talked an awful lot. I should say that they probably spent more time together. I don't know why we didn't put them together in one office, but it was, they would spend this huge amount of time in the office all day long talking. JJ and Gene Anderson would come in, basically JJ, and they would discuss matches, talent. We would have talent would come in. They would talk, and this was one thing that Dusty and Jimmy did very well, was to get talent involved in their overall program. It wasn't just talking about one match. They wanted to look down the road, whether it was 6 weeks or 6 months.
We see that the train keeps on going. Come the 5th, we've got, it looks like 2 shows here. So we're running double shots, or maybe it's 2 crews. Let's take a look. We see in Richmond, Virginia, it's Flag versus Flag, Kernoodle and Ivan Koloff. We've got Blanchard in this mix with Steamboat, Magnum TA with Nikita Koloff, American Starship. How about that? That's a name we don't talk about a whole lot here on the program.
That's right. We don't.
Remind everybody who American Starship was.
I'm trying to think of it too.
Stan Spivey, right? No, he was Starship Eagle. American Starship, Scott Hall.
That's right. Yeah, I want to say, all right, we have to do a little research here. Fans, when we broadcast this, please let us know. There.
American Starship Coyote. Coyote's what I always remembered. Coyote and Eagle. Scott Hall was Coyote. Spivey was Eagle. But yeah, this is Scott Hall for Jim Crockett Promotions in 1985. How about that?
Wow. Now, this is before we went up north.
Oh, well, years before he is the Top and Stud or Razor Ramon, Tommy Young, and one of the Hebners here as your referee. And we know there's 2. Which one would have been first to Crockett Promotions here? This is Earl, right?
Yes. I want to say Earl.
We got 2 shows here, 2 crews. You see Conway, South Carolina, the same day, January 5th. This is Saturday. So we used to hear Rick say he wrestled 7 days a week, twice on Sunday, twice on Saturday. Well, this is what that looked like.
Sundays. We did a lot of double shots, especially if you look at Asheville, North Carolina. That would be a daytime show, 3:00, and either Greenville, Atlanta, or Charlotte would be the night shows. So yeah. Matter of fact, I guess we'll wait until we get to it. We did another double shot one time. You had to use a plane.
Let's take a look on the 6th, and boy, what a big show this is. This is a Sunday show, and it's here in Greensboro, North Carolina. And what's cool about this is it's the golden anniversary kickoff 85. Now, just to remind you, I think this is the 50-year anniversary of Jim Crockett Promotions, is it not?
That is correct, yes. There was always some controversy about whether the company was started in 1933 or 1935. So for this, we chose 1935. And think about it, Conrad, in 2 years, it'll be 100.
Wow. We got to do another show.
I'm saying we need to do a show a year to keep this up.
I'm for it.
Just one show a year. I think that we're regressing here a little bit, but what you did in Nashville, just having the independent wrestling groups together for pay-per-view was fantastic.
Well, thank you.
You know, and to do this, you know, because there's no, you're promoting an event, you're not looking at egos, and you let them, everybody bring their best, and then you let them do what they need to do, and they spin it back off into their different areas.
Yes.
You know, once or twice a year, shoot, or I doubt if they want to do it quarterly, but
No.
yeah. Once or twice a year. You don't want to do it quarterly.
No. No.
But once a year, I think would work.
Well, let's just say this. Stay tuned. Right. So this golden anniversary kickoff show, it does a $46,000 gate. You see that in the top left-hand corner.
And that's great. That's a great number. Think about then, prices were old prices. We still had kids' tickets.
Yes.
And a ringside seat might have been $10, $15, if that. Right. I know it wasn't, it really wasn't 20. I can tell you that.
You've got 5,879 folks here, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Which is pretty strong. To your point, it means the tickets are awfully affordable. Your average ticket price would be like $7.82.
Yeah, about that, right? Maybe there was a reason we had you here.
This show is a fun show. We got Cowboy Lang and Lord Littlebrook, Steve Casey and Black Bart. It looks like we've got a 20-man battle royal here. We got Magnum TA working with Wahoo McDaniel for the U.S. title. I guess it's a non-title match. Tully Blanchard working with Dick Slater in a Texas death match. And Blanchard's title's on the line, as well as $10,000. And then
I can tell you that was bloody.
Oh,
with Slater and Tully, and it's bloody match.
How fun is this too? Dusty Rhodes and Manny Fernandez against the Road Warriors, and I have in my notes here the Road Warriors actually lost. That was
they blew up. They blew up. They can't go long.
Right.
Manny was in there to blow him up. Then you have Dusty come in, and they were good businessmen. They did the job when they needed to, and there was a reason. It wasn't going to hurt them.
Right. It's a pretty big opportunity to have Ric Flair here. Obviously, he's this is his home territory, but he's the touring NWA champion. But this is the golden anniversary show, so he's here working with Harley Race in a 33-minute match. The folks in Greensboro got a big treat that day. But that's not even what goes on last. Don Kernodle and Ivan Koloff have a lights-out steel cage flag match. After the bout, Ivan's going to throw the referee into the cage. Nikita's going to enter through the door. Moments later, the Koloffs are going to double-team Kernodle. Ricky, the Dragon Steamboat, comes out, pulls the cage door off its hinges, and helps Kernodle fight off the Koloffs. And then, I think what closes the show is Magnum TA winning a 20-man, $50,000 battle royal. And I believe you've got a who's who in here. You got Harley Race, you got Ole Anderson, you got Wahoo McDaniel, Ricky, the Dragon Steamboat, Tully Blanchard, the Barbarian, Dusty Rhodes. 1985, man, it's clear the Dream has big plans for Magnum TA, does he not?
Yes, he does. And you couldn't help but have big plans for Magnum. He came on the scene and he had the look. He had the voice. He was talented. You did not have to teach him how to wrestle. You did not teach him how to sell. He just knew it. And especially then you get Dusty as his mentor. I mean, what better?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this year would have been a year where you guys had one of the planes, right? Maybe you didn't have the second plane, but you had one plane, right?
I want to say yes. We had the G1, which held 16, which is a turboprop. And that, to me, 500-mile range. So that made sense in a lot of ways. We could carry, a whole wrestling group and their equipment and whatever else we needed to wherever, we needed to go. We could fly. What we did, we'd fly groups somewhere, drop them off for a week, go get another group, drop them off, and then at the end of the week, go pick them up.
I bring this up because this show here on Sunday in Greensboro, that's the evening show. There's an afternoon show in Savannah, Georgia, and we see it at the bottom on Monday the 7th on that same page. But there's a big arrow that points over there that lets us know that we had Flair and Blanchard and that flag match with Kernodle and Ivan Koloff. And it looks like the rest of the folks, maybe they weren't involved on the second show, but they were here in Savannah. So we very quickly had to get a handful of folks, I don't know, like a 5-hour drive. It would be hard for me to imagine that those two matches went on early. So it was probably using the prop plane, right?
That is correct. Yes. And in some cases, even before the prop plane, depending on the number, we would lease a plane. A Cherokee Navajo, which held 6.
So as we move to the 7th, now the train keeps on rolling, but we're still doing double shots. But it's no longer Saturday or Sunday. Now it's Monday. We got 2 shows here, 2 crews, Greenville, South Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, both really strong at the gate, 9,900 in Greenville, 11,000 in Fayetteville. And that flag versus flag thing, man, you guys were taking it all over. It's going to be your headline attraction in Fayetteville. We got Dusty Rhodes working with the Super Destroyer. We got Raging Bull working with Nikita Koloff, and that's in a lumberjack match. Meanwhile, the Greenville show has Ricky the Dragon Steamboat teaming up with Dirty Dick Slater to take on the Long Riders, who are the Irwins. Scott and Bill Irwin is what they're working as here as the Long Riders. And J is going to be handcuffed to Charlie Brown. Now, that's not the cartoon Charlie Brown. That's a different alter ego of Mr. Boogie Woogie. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. Yes. And two, you look at Don Canola with the flag versus flag. Fayetteville, you have Fort Bragg, the military there. Oh, they really enjoyed that match. And then Greenville had always been a very good arena for us, the whole area. We used to run that every single Monday night.
We see some fun matchups here, including Magnum TA working with Harley Race. I would have loved to have seen that one. And how about this for a special attraction match? Charlie Brown versus JJ Dillon. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. Shoot. Can you imagine Boogie Woogie Man / Charlie Brown and JJ? And JJ, he has this way of bouncing around the ring. He really, in the ropes, he's beautiful when he goes through the ropes.
Amazing stuff here. Let's take a look at the TV taping here. The Rec Center in Shelby, North Carolina. Not a big town, but it was often a Crockett staple. Why did you guys do TV so often at the Rec Center there? Would it just look good on TV? Did you get a good deal on the building? What's the deal?
The building was easy. It was close. We knew we would always have an audience there. It was not, I guess you could put maybe 1,500, 2,000 people in there at that. And the reaction, the acoustics in that building, you could have 10 people and you think it's 1,000.
Right.
And two, you've got to remember that as soon as the taping is over, we take that truck, we come back to Charlotte and start dubbing tapes because we have to do interviews, the next day with the wrestlers and then ship the tapes out to the different TV stations or cities. So, the closer, the better for us. In a lot of cases, like we did TV taping in Raleigh. Well, then, at Dorton Arena, well, then we have to drive, 3 hours? You've got to tear everything down and get back to Charlotte to start dubbing again. So, it took a lot.
Shelby, North Carolina. We got some dark matches. We got, it's written in the notes here, show A, show B. Now that to me means we're doing 2 sets of TV tapings, right? Or am I overthinking this?
You're right. You're doing Mid-Atlantic and worldwide.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And I want to know, when we've got in blue pen here, 623 circled, and 4323 circled, you guys wouldn't clear the room, reset it, and charge for a new gate, right?
No. We would take an intermission, change the skirts, and give the cameraman time to go to the bathroom, and then we start anew.
So I realize we're trying to do some investigating, some guessing, some CSI North Carolina here. What is 623 and 4323? If you had to guess, what does that mean?
I'll try to figure that out. It doesn't have anything to do with payoffs. Yeah. It doesn't have anything to. I know that's what you would think, but no, it doesn't have anything to do with the tape number, the show number. Yeah. I guess Jimmy was, I don't know, eating gummies or something.
Yeah. I love it.
No, I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't.
This TV taping is pretty fun. We got lots of stuff happening. Of course, this is where we would shoot all of our angles and things like that. But the thing that happens last is we've got Buzz Tyler, or I guess that's next to last. Superstar Billy Graham and the Barbarian are going to defeat Mark Fleming and Sam Houston. And after the match, you're going to interview Jones with American Starship Eagle. They're going to start interrupting and accepting Jones' challenge for $1,000 for anyone who can break Graham's full Nelson. And then moments later, Graham and Barbarian tend to Jones. Graham is going to challenge Starship to come out and face him. It's interesting to think that once upon a time, that full Nelson was such a big deal, but I guess it's a big deal if we make it a big deal. Isn't that right?
Yeah. You can make anything a big deal if you portray it the right way. Graham, if you look at Graham himself, how muscular he was and how he would put it on, and his reaction, also the talent, any wrestler, their reaction to it. And announcers made a big deal out of it.
The next show is a 50th anniversary kickoff spectacular. So we're doing a series of these. We mentioned that we had one in Greensville. Now we've got one here in Raleigh. Of course, that's going to be at the Dorton Arena. The U.S. title's on the line. It's Wahoo McDaniel and Slater. It's Rhodes versus Race, which is pretty big deal. Anytime you can get those two guys in the ring together. Blanchard and Steamboat, Charlie Brown and Graham, Raging Bull and Bart, Magnum TA and Bass. Tommy Young's our referee. I guess the question here is, how did you decide which shows are going to get this 50th anniversary branding and which shows are not? Is it just based on location?
The size of the building. Okay. We'd look at the matches that we could put in there at that time. You're looking at, if you put all the talent there, you're in name talent, then you want to charge a good price, and that because you've got to pay them.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to pay them. Those towns that we did not do well in, you still have a minimum guarantee that you have to pay talent. Even though it was a 50th anniversary, $6,000 for Raleigh, that's all right, but it's not great.
Right.
If you look at later in the years, that would probably be 16 to 20,000.
Well, but it's a Wednesday too, so that's got to be part of it, right?
Yes, that's church night in the South.
Yes.
You got your church meeting. So normal for Raleigh is a Tuesday night. Right. So people, and that's been since I was a kid. So we changed the routine on them. So, that's hard. That's hard. So, yeah.
Let's take a look at the 10th. We've got another 50th anniversary kickoff special here. Charleston, South Carolina. Once again, it's that flag versus flag on top. And then at the bottom there, we see something that we've seen a lot here. Cowboy Lang versus Lord Littlebrook. Of course, they're called midgets here. I don't think that's the term we use in 2022, but that was the term back then. But Cowboy Lang and Lord Littlebrook was a special attraction. Is that the right word to use?
Yes, it's just like women's wrestling at the time. They were special because there were not that many participating in wrestling. They would travel the country and they would, we would normally get them around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and also in the summer. This was a little different, that it was around the first of the year. I'm sure that we had them during Christmas time. But yes, they would travel as a group, going to different areas, and they were very entertaining, very, very entertaining.
We would see another show that same day. You sort of referenced it earlier, Tarboro, North Carolina. And of course, if the first show's got Rhodes and Nikita and Kernoodle and Ivan, well, the second show's got Blanchard and the Raging Bull. We do $1,742. Boy, I have no freaking idea where Tarboro, North Carolina even is. How do these, would that be called a spot show because it's not something you ran all the time?
Yes, it is a spot show. It would be at a high school gym. You have booster clubs that would, want to have wrestling to generate dollars. And a lot of it had to do with how well the booster club promoted the event themselves. A lot of them I don't say a lot, a few would just depend on us and TV. We would send them radio interviews and information for the newspaper, and we expected them to do it. But guess what? They didn't make anything because we took everything.
Right.
You do $1,000. At that time, we had the split would come in around $1,500. After $1,500, we would split with them. But it wasn't 50-50 either, by the way. But so we didn't go back there very often. Tarboro was, believe it or not, good for in the summertime at the baseball stadium there.
There's only, today there's only like 10,000 people in the area. So I can't imagine that it would have been a big town, but I'm glad to know how it worked. that split with high schools and boosters and all that stuff, because I've never known that. So thanks for
sharing. It was a 75-25. After that $1,500. And that would cover in most cases the guarantee that we had to pay the wrestlers.
On the 11th, we're in Norfolk, Virginia, another one of these big 50th anniversary kickoff shows. This time it's a Friday. We got $9,346 at the gate. Once again, it's a flag match on top. You've got Cleveland, Ohio at the bottom. It says Wahoo and Tyler. So we're loaning some folks out for some different territories.
Right.
And then as we cruise on into the weekend, man, you want to take a look at a scattered day, man. January 12th, there are notations everywhere. It looks like in the notes here, you guys ran 3 freaking shows this day. No, 4. We got Spartanburg, North Wilkesboro, Bassett, Virginia, and Asheville, North Carolina. You can see it's annotated here that Asheville is a 3 p.m. show. So that's a matinee show. Flag versus flag on top. Bassett, Virginia has Blanchard versus the Raging Bull on top. And then the big show at night, I suppose, is Kernoodle and Ivan Koloff. We got Slater teaming with Magnum against the Long Riders. And then you see at the very tippy top, the biggest gate of them all, or one of the biggest gates of them all, the Spartanburg, South Carolina show had Flair versus Wahoo, Rhodes versus Nikita, but 4 shows in a single day. $10,000 in Spartanburg, $5,300 in North Wilkesboro, $5,100 in Bassett, $12,200 in Asheville. David, how in the world can a family-run business like this run 4 shows on the same doggone day?
Why not?
Seems like you guys are getting stretched real thin here. Am I overthinking this?
No, not necessarily. We had good people working with us. There again, I mentioned Sandy Scott.
Yes.
Then too, Wally Dusick, besides doing the ring, Wally was He ran some towns for us. George Harbin did. We had, well, the Murnicks worked with us, but in this case, this was all us. When Spartanburg was a town that, for many, many years ran every Saturday. And North Wilkesboro, that's up near the mountains. That's, racing was in North Wilkesboro, the track there. Bassett, Virginia, that's a pretty good distance, I would say, yes. Then Asheville's, not that far. It's 2.5 hours from here. We had a representative, whether it was Jimmy, Jackie, no, not Jackie, whether it was Jimmy or I, would go, Sandy, even Gene Anderson, if he was available, wasn't wrestling, he would handle it. So yeah, we would cover it. The Murnicks worked with us in Eastern North Carolina and Virginia. We had Nick Apostolou up in Roanoke and Lynchburg. We had Henry Marcus down towards Charleston. So yeah, we covered it. And it was sort of like, as we grew, it was like, one more town? Sure, why not? You don't think about how many, as long as it's just, I can do that.
Right.
We don't think that we can't do it. See, that, I guess that's the thing. We had this can-do attitude that, sure, why not? Just like TV taping. We bought our own television truck.
Yeah.
Everybody thought we were nuts, but guess what? I'm going, we can do that. And we did.
Now that I'm looking at it, I realize, I guess you guys actually ran 3 shows that day. The Asheville show was a matinee on the 13th. You see that big blue arrow?
Yeah. And Asheville was always best in the afternoon.
Why is that, do you think?
It's the mountains. You're in the mountains. Once it gets dark, people, you cannot count on the people in Asheville to come to the event. You have to look at the outward area. Same thing with Charlotte, any city, Atlanta. It's what's outside the road system going to and from the transportation system, where they have buses or other mass transit. So you have to look at all that to say, when are you going to do that event, and or what time? And in the case of Asheville, it was once it gets dark in those mountains, you don't have a lot of street lights. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people that come from Greenville, South Carolina, and Spartanburg that come to that event. You have Interstate 26 that goes to Asheville. I guess that would help you.
Yeah, absolutely. The big show that you're getting ready for here on Sunday the 13th, Charlotte, North Carolina, the 50th anniversary kickoff show. Once again, this flag versus flag thing is on fire. Don Kernoodle tagging with Dusty Rhodes, taking on the Kolofs, Wahoo and Tyler for the U.S. title. The Mid-Atlantic tag title, we got the Long Riders against Steamboat and Slater. 20-minute television match here with Blanchard and the Raging Bull. A special challenge match, Magnum TA and Harley Race. Charlie Brown and the Assassin taking on Graham and the Barbarian. This is a big-time show. We got $37,950 at the gate. To put that in 2022 dollars, that's over $105,000 here in Charlotte. And it's at the Coliseum. There's about 4,000 fans here in attendance. Charlotte is really the home of Jim Crockett Promotions, is it not?
It is. Yes. It's the home. The thing is, the Greensboro was always the home of Starrcade.
Yes.
That the bigger matches we would take to Greensboro. Main reason is, over the whole area, we had more population and road systems going to Greensboro than we did Charlotte. Charlotte's building was in the town, in the center of the city. So interstates, we didn't have Interstate 40 and 85 coming to Charlotte. We had 85. We really didn't have 77 until several years later. But yeah, Charlotte was home, definitely home to wrestling.
The week of the 14th is getting started next. It's Monday the 14th. We got $6,932 in Greenville, South Carolina.
That's good. That's good for Greenville.
And take a look at what you see at the very top of the paper here. This is a TV taping in Greenwood, South Carolina. You see the notes here, show A, show B, and then there at the very top, Baby Doll. I just think that's so cool to think that, this is where it's all really going to happen. This is where that whole thing gets going.
Right.
But it's not just that. We actually see Terry Funk here. We're going to have some footage of Crockett speaking with Terry Funk and J.J. Dillon, where Funk says he doesn't want to wrestle for anyone but himself. And then eventually we're going to see Ox Baker come in to aid Funk in getting rid of Dick Slater. There's been lots of discussion about how long Funk was supposed to be in and whether or not he was supposed to be involved long-term or not. I say this because the Observer, which was actually a thing back in 1985, reported that this run was going to be cut short so he could go film the movie Wild Side. Do you remember what the circumstances were about Terry Funk coming in 85 here?
He was supposed to come in for a longer period of time. At that time, you're looking January, out in Texas, the weather is horrible. And so he wanted to come east. He would wrestle for us and he would fit into what we were doing at that time. Once he got here, it was, oh, by the way, that we had planned long term, but then he says, well, I've got this movie thing that I'm going to do. So then you drop back 10, and there again, you're glad everything's in pencil so you can use the eraser. Oh, wait a minute. I've got to do something here. Damn it. There. Damn it. Or shit.
Oh, yeah.
Does that work? That work. Yeah, I got to get my cuss in there. Yeah. Got to get my cuss in there. Okay, here we go.
I just think it's fun to think about the idea that, Terry's in for really just a cup of coffee, and it feels like he starts to replace, or he starts to be replaced by Dory Funk, because here we are on the 15th, and I think his last show with you guys, him being Terry, was January 26th. So we're going to get there in a few minutes, but I just remember back in the day, it felt like, again, I wasn't watching wrestling back here, but I just assumed that it was something like they're going to come in for 90 days or 6 months or 18 months or whatever.
Right.
Or maybe just a one-off, a special attraction. We got Andre for this day or that day or what have you. But Terry Funk to come in on the 15th and then leave on the 26th, and then his brother starts popping up. It's like, okay, something was different. Maybe Dave was onto something. So I'm glad you cleared that up for us.
Yeah. And two, Dory and Terry, it's like apples and oranges.
Right.
You have one that's full of life and the other that you have to check his pulse to see if he's breathing.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Dory's a great wrestler, but word.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let me think about this. And interviews were extremely hard. Gene Okerlund could probably interview him. I had the hardest time in the world interviewing Dory, because he was so slow, methodical, I guess, coming back and talking to you.
Well, this TV taping we're talking about here in Greenwood, South Carolina, would feature you doing an interview with television champion Tully Blanchard with Baby.
Good interview. Good. Hey, it was a great interview with Baby Doll. I mean, Tully took it and ran with it. I mean, and then Baby Doll, Tully would create this charisma, and Baby Doll get pumped up too with this, because when she first came in, she had no idea what was going on. She didn't.
I can't wait to talk about the actual debut that airs first, because it's important that everybody understands these are not live shows that are airing live. I mean, they are for the house, but they're not airing on live television. So we're going to get this on the can here on Tuesday, the 15th. But on the 18th, we're going to film something that maybe people see first. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you see, again, and we got to figure this out, David, on this TV tape.
Right.
15th. We got 624 circled in blue, and then we 4324. That's going to drive me nuts.
All right, we're going to have to dig Jimmy up now. All right.
Oh, goodness gracious. Listen.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
As we go to...
I will look,
we'll keep playing with it. We're back in Raleigh. This is our third time in Raleigh, just in the month of January. This is a different era, folks. We're running these towns almost on a weekly basis.
Yes.
$1,690. The main event is Wahoo and Dick Slater. It's for the U.S. title. We got two referees here. We got a brass knuckle title with Raging Bull and Bart. We got a grudge match with Kernodle and Steamboat against the Koloffs. The Russian stuff here in 85 is just can't miss. And I want to remind everybody that it's something that everybody's talking about, the Cold War and whatnot. But 1985 is also the year that Rocky IV came out. So it's Rocky versus Ivan Drago. So this is not just a wrestling thing. America and pop culture, there's a lot of discussion about America versus Russia.
All right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm sure you will, that Sergeant Slaughter had left us at this time. All right. Kernodle and Slaughter were partners for quite a while. So this carries over, Kernodle with the American waving the flag and so forth against the Russians. Yes. So this, it was a natural.
Slaughter at the time was working with the AWA, and he would stay there until he popped back up in the WWF and did his Iraqi sympathizer routine. On Thursday, the 17th, we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is not somewhere that you guys ran all the time. You got a pretty good gate, 12,700. On top, it's Wildfire Tommy Rich challenging the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair. How would a Pittsburgh show have been put together here?
Pittsburgh, I'm trying to figure out who was the promoter in that area. I think Elliot Murnick probably went up there for us. It was a joint venture, with some of your people from St. Louis, maybe.
What's interesting is you got Bob Backlund, who was scheduled to wrestle, but instead he comes out in a suit and thanks the fans for coming out, and the fans boo the shit out of him.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, there again, it's two different
audiences.
Yes. You're talking about us and them, and we and they have very loyal fans.
Yes.
And there's not much crossover, not much at all. Yeah, I personally think that we had more fans from the WWE coming to us than ours going to them, just because I know we were a faster pace.
Right. No doubt.
Yeah. And our interviews were totally off the wall. Totally. Great talent we had.
No doubt. Let's keep it going. Sumter, South Carolina, you're running two shows here on Thursday. That one's not nearly what the other one is. $2,752 at the gate. On top, it's Bass and Tyler. It can't compete with Flair. The next day, we're going to keep the train going, and you know what this means. It's going to be time for a big show. And where else would we be but taking a look at seeing what we can draw in Richmond, Virginia. $37,900 at the gate. There's 8,000 fans in attendance. This is a big doggone show, and we would see Tully Blanchard beat the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And Meltzer, or in the notes here, it says Rhodes originally won the match, but the title and the decision was reversed since Rhodes threw Blanchard over the top moments earlier. We would also see Flair and Tommy Young be in the mix here. working together with Wahoo McDaniel. I say Tommy Young because Tommy Young is going to catch Flair with a steel chair moments after McDaniel used it on Flair as Young was knocked down. So Wahoo wins by DQ, which is kind of fun. This is Eddie Guerrero stuff before Eddie Guerrero was doing that gag. Pretty creative booking here by the American Dream.
Oh, yes. And two, you've got to remember talent also had a stake in it as far as what they would like to do with the program. You know, they looked at long term, you know, the true pros. They looked at it long term. So they would have suggestions, you know, how to, and Dusty would listen. You know, that was good. I noticed there in Richmond too, we had our old booker, Johnny Weaver. He was wrestling.
Yes, he was. Mr. was in action here, and he's going to be taking on Doug Vines, picks up the win. Magnum TA's in action. Of course, Don Kernodle and Ivan Koloff in a flag lumberjack match. Nikita's going to interfere, and damn it, Ivan wins.
Yeah.
The same day, we're in Charleston at the County Hall. Not nearly the same gate, $1,568, but not near the talent either.
No.
Now it's a Saturday. The two shows here. Lumberton, North Carolina, the flag match on top, $7,300. Fredericksburg, Virginia, it's going to be Blanchard and Slater on top. And along the way, this is where we have the introduction of Baby Doll. That County Hall taping, which we covered on Saturday, January 18th. This is where, when the show airs on the 19th on Worldwide, there's a vignette of the television champ Tully Blanchard arriving to an airport in a limo, and moments later, a private jet would land and a woman would step out and joins Blanchard in the limo. The two kiss in the limo as it drives off, and we're playing Motley Crue's song Looks That Kill throughout the segment, and this is Baby Doll's debut. Tell me about how that segment was put together, because this was a great introduction on TV for what's going to be a big part of the program for several years.
All right, we had a great cameraman, editor, Wayne Daniel. He handled our camera for us doing this taping. We worked on, you know, we went to the airport, private terminal, talked to some people at Thurston Aviation about using their jet, and which we did, and did this taping. And it was great fun to do it. It was, you know, that we didn't have a shot chart or anything like that. It was, you know, it was old school ad lib, you know, when we were out there. You know, it was good. We did the main shot and then other shots to fill in. And it really clicked. We could feel it. It worked. It definitely worked.
It's not posted anywhere else. Meaning it's not on Peacock, but somebody out there has it. And if you can find it, go out of your way to find this episode of Worldwide. It aired January 19th, 1985. Not only did we get the introduction of Baby Doll and her debut, but this is where that Terry Funk interview that was taped a few days prior actually airs. And you would be the person interviewing both J.J. Dillon and Terry Funk when Terry says, you know, I'm the best, and I don't want to work for Jim Crockett Promotions, but I'm here to go after that steroid freak Steamboat and that egg sucking dog Rhodes. Steroid freak is not something people said a lot in 1985, and here it is. So go out of your way to find it on Worldwide, January 19th, 1985. What a cool show.
I can't believe Peacock doesn't have it, you know, because, you know, when Vince took over, he took everything that Turner had, but I'd have to say that Turner lost quite a few tapes, quite a few. You know,
next up, as you turn the page, check this out, man. Something that you won't see very often in this calendar. The word dark underlined and circled, and then underneath it, Super Bowl Sunday. That makes sense, man. Don't compete with the behemoth that was the NFL even in 1985, right?
Yes, sir. You know, and it was something strange for us to have a day dark. Now we would go dark before Christmas, but then every holiday we would, actually work. But yeah, to actually have a dark day, it was strange. I was trying to figure out what to do. Yeah.
It's cool to take a look at that Super Bowl too, just to remind everybody it's Joe Montana versus Dan Marino, as the 49ers are going to beat the Dolphins 38-16. Bill Walsh and Don Shula are your head coaches.
Wow.
It's the good old days, right?
Good old days. You're talking about hardcore football.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something back then. I did love football. I don't watch it as much as I did, but good football.
Monday the 21st, we got two shows. One stands out more than the other. Fayetteville, North Carolina, pretty elementary show, $3,900 here, but Natural Bridge, Virginia, buddy,
that sucked.
$590. What in the world is this?
Well, that was Peter Apostolo wanted to do that one.
A high school show here, right?
Yeah. And it was one that should never have happened, because if you look at it, it's January.
Right.
Natural Bridge, Virginia is up in the Appalachian Mountains. It snows, it's cold, it sleets. So you never know. And two, road systems around there, it's back roads. So yeah. Sorry, people in Natural Bridge, but it's true. Yeah. But yeah.
That's so fun. As we turn the page, we're on to the 22nd. It's a Tuesday. We're doing a TV taping here. Am I saying this right? Salisbury, North Carolina?
Yes, Salisbury. Salisbury, that's the home of the Veterans Hospital is there. And also the Food Line used to be headquartered there in Salisbury. That's a grocery store, if you didn't know.
As we take a look, we see show A and show B here. And once again, those numbers are there. And now we can tell for sure there's a pattern. We were at 624. Now we're at 625. We were at 4324. Now we're at 4325. It's got to be something about the tapes or the market numbers or something. I don't know, but it's got to be something.
Well, Salisbury is only an hour away from us. Why would he do 624, 625? Probably didn't want to put one.
It's fascinating. We'll keep
all right.
Yeah. As we do this is almost like what's that Nicolas Cage movie? This is the National Treasure.
Yes. Yes.
Wednesday the 23rd. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is our fourth time in Raleigh so far this month. $3,671. Baby doll is on the card. You see, she's going to be with Tully Blanchard to take on the Raging Bull. And then how about this? A Siberian death match. Don Kernodle versus Ivan Koloff. And it says here, it's a 4-count pin because it's a Siberian death match. What do you think about that?
Somebody was drinking.
I love it.
No, I mean, it was just something they add to it. I mean, you can only do so many different things. So why not do a 4-count?
So that's the idea. If anybody ever asks you, hey, what are the rules for a Siberian death match? Well, here are the stipulations. A 4-count required for pinfalls, a 2-minute rest period after each fall to answer the bell. Unfortunately, Mr. Scott Casey did not answer the bell. He was a no-show and is scratched. Very rarely do we see this. This is the first time in this book we've seen it. No-show. How did you guys handle that with the talent when someone no-showed? What's the next steps? What's the protocol when you have someone no-show?
Why did you no-show?
Right.
Is it, your car breakdown? Someone sick in your family? You couldn't get to a phone?
Right.
Or, and if you didn't have an excuse, you'd be gone. Pure and simple. I mean, you just don't no-show. It doesn't work. And also, you don't get paid if you no-show, so why would they want to do it?
Right.
I think Casey was planning other things, maybe.
January 24th, it's a Thursday. We're in Columbia, South Carolina. We've got $6,800 at the gate. That grudge match on top, Kernoodle and Steamboat against the Russian. Blanchard with Baby Doll taking on Dusty Rhodes. And then as we cruise over, now it's time for the weekend, Friday the 25th. And boy, what a fun show this is. I bring it up because it's one of the rare times that we would actually see Terry Funk appear in the book here as far as in-ring action. Norfolk, Virginia, we got Dick Slater and Terry Funk here at the Scope. That same day, he would also do a show in St. Louis for Central States, but then he would be back on the 26th, and then that's it. So let's take a look at the rest of the card here, though. We got a lights-out double chain match with the Russians against Kernoodle and Steamboat, Blanchard versus Dusty Rhodes. And then you see the bounty match. It's Dick Slater versus the bounty hunter, and that's actually Terry Funk.
Right.
Magnum TA versus Bart. The junior title was up with Danny Brown and Larson. We got $10,182 here. I am curious, was the thinking, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to understand if
Okay.
Terry Funk is a draw and he's a name, why would we not promote him as Terry Funk? Or was that just a Terry idea? Hey, I want to be called the bounty hunter. Or did
Yes.
you, I don't want to promote this guy if we don't have him long term. Let's just get him in and get him out. And what's the thought there?
Terry wanted to be the bounty hunter, thought that might add some mystique to it. Not necessarily, you try it. If it doesn't work, then you do something else. It's
like in the notes here, it says Sword, which makes me think it's probably Jeff's sword. So maybe that
right.
was supposed to be under the hood. Instead, it winds up being Terry Funk. I don't know. It just feels, this is like an odd piece of history, because you think about what Terry Funk could have done for the promotion if he would have been able to hang around.
Well, that's it. He wasn't able to hang around. So you're committed to him. So how do you promote? You can't promote him long term because he's not going to be there.
Right.
So short term, you don't want him to beat your main talent.
Right.
Yeah. So, the bounty hunter, it was a thing that, Dusty thought it might work, for whatever reason, but it so we tried it, and I don't think it did as well as we would like, but hey, hindsight's 2020.
Not all the ideas are home runs. As a reminder, you would see Terry Funk pop up somewhere else in 1985 for Vince McMahon. He would debut in June 17th, 1985, but this is January. So, and then he's going to be off to make a movie. But
yeah, he's got the movie. So, I'm sure that in the background there, he was in talks with Vince. So, there are only certain things that he would do. So how many times, are you going to be able to beat him? Probably not.
Right.
It would be a DQ or a count out or something. So, Black Bart, not Black Bart, the bounty hunter.
Dick Slater, yeah.
Yeah.
And the bounty hunter. Charleston, South Carolina, the same day on the 25th. It's a lesser show. Assassin #1, Raging Bull and Tyler taking on Graham, Barbarian, and Jones. Only 1,600 at the gate. But as we turn the page, boy, we got another big show in Greensboro on Saturday, the 26th. We've got 25,000 folks here. It's a lights out bunkhouse bounty match with Dick Slater and Terry Funk. JJ Dillon's in his corner. Wahoo versus Tyler. Blanchard versus Rhodes. A 6-man with Khrushchev and the Kolofs against Raging Bull, Kernoodle, and Steamboat. This is a pretty damn all-star cast with Terry Funk on top. So listen, he's not here for a long time, but he's here for $25,000 at the gate. That ain't too bad.
No, not bad at all. The thing with Greensboro is you knew that you would get X number of dollars. Just the name Greensboro, and we're having a match there.
Yes.
Fans knew that if they bought a ticket, they were going to see good matches.
Yes.
And so that helped. And then you start adding to it, and the people bought it. You had Magnum TA there, and you have a 6-man. So it Crusher Khrushchev. So it just keeps on growing. Tully Blanchard. He had him. Dusty. If you're going to have Dusty, you're going to have a big card.
Right.
So yeah, and Wahoo was back. So yeah, and Wahoo was always a good addition. And you see there too that Dick Slater defeated Terry Funk.
Right.
Right. So he did his due.
The 6-man tag here, where we've got Khrushchev and the Koloffs against Raging Bull, Carnoodle, and Steamboat. I believe this might be the introduction, or the reintroduction rather, of the NWA 6-man tag team titles. How did that come about? I mean, I know that it wasn't necessarily a new thing. You guys had done it up until, I believe, like July of '84 with the Russians. It was Ivan, Nikita, and Don Carnoodle. But then Crusher Khrushchev essentially replaced Don Carnoodle, and the 6-man titles become a big thing again here in January of '85. What can you tell us about the reintroduction of those?
Well, with the 6-man, now think about it. All right, you have so many different ways that you can spin this off, from taking a tag team, adding someone, you wrestle, then you pull it apart to have singles or a tag and a single. It was a way that you could get very good talent, and also that the best talent, you needed a weak sister in there to take the fall on. So, and you didn't want to beat Steamboat, and also at that time you didn't want to beat Don Carnoodle. You had Ivan, Nikita, and Crusher. My guess is they took the fall on Crusher. But it was was defeated Ivan. Okay, so I guarantee you they defeated Khrushchev, and not Ivan or Nikita.
Right.
It's. Do you get that? Or
oh no, I totally get it. I mean, it gives you more flexibility and creativity, and lots of new finishes and ways to spin it and protect talent, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I wish we could see video of all this too, as we're talking about. Some of this would help people understand the progression because all this has a plan.
Absolutely.
From every time we went to Greensboro, if you could just lay out the Greensboro matches and see, because there again, we're always with Greensboro, we're always going to point to the next Starrcade, eventually getting around to that. So, because at Starrcade, we would at intermission have tickets on sale for the next Starrcade a year from then, and people would buy them because they knew they would have great wrestling. So
great wrestling happened on Sunday, the 27th. We had a matinee show in Roanoke, 2:30 bell time, $22,700 at the gate. On top, it's Flair versus Wahoo for the NWA World Title. The amount of respect that Flair had for Wahoo, we can't properly express. So I'm sure he was tickled to be doing this. A flag match with Carnoodle and Nikita Koloff, Tully Blanchard working with Dick Slater. And $27,000 is a pretty damn strong gate. And then we would, of course, go back to Monday, the 28th. Believe it or not, 2 shows on the 28th, $15,000 in Greenville. It's once again Flair Wahoo on top. This time, a no DQ match. It was advertised Blanchard versus Dusty Rhodes, but we switched that to Blanchard versus Magnum TA. And they're about to start the feud of the year in 19.
Oh, man. That Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard, that feud I wish it could have continued.
Yes.
Oh, think about what you could have done with that. Gone tags, 6-mans, back to singles, to tags, to 6-man. It would go on for years. But unfortunately, it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, just think if Magnum would have been able to win that world title from Rick in 1986 at Starrcade, if the accident wouldn't have happened in October of '86, you got to think with a babyface champion in Magnum TA, he's going to have a lot of great matches with Tully Blanchard in the fallout.
True, but there again, you've got to remember that the world heavyweight champion is not really going to be a babyface.
Right.
Magnum is eventually would be a heel.
Really?
And think about it. Oh, he has to. He has to eventually be the heel. Maybe not here, but everywhere else, the heels, he would wrestle heels, but he's going to wrestle a babyface at some point.
I got you. So when he's a touring champion, he's got to be a heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the home promotion. That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah. At home promotion. Yeah. At first, but there again, it's just like when Rick was a heel, then he turned babyface. The Andersons were heels and they turned babyface. Blackjack, and you can when you turn a babyface heel, you really get a lot of heat because the fans feel like you have just stuck it to them. And Magnum would do a good job. I really believe it. Yeah, I could just hear his interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just that smirk on his face. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, we saw that smirk in front of $15,000 at the gate at Greenville, South Carolina against Tully Blanchard. That same day, you guys were running Kenansville, North Carolina. Never even heard of that. But we got a grudge match on top, Kernoodle and Ivan Koloff, $3,453 at the gate. As we start to wind down the month, we're doing TV in Spartanburg.
Oh, yes. Good building.
2 sets of tapings again. We see those numbers. We got to figure out those are 626, 4326 now. But a pretty phenomenal TV taping here. Spartanburg is a spot that Tony Schiavone talks about pretty fondly. He really enjoyed doing TV there. Why do you think that one stuck out, at least to Tony Schiavone?
Well, Tony hadn't been with us that long, right?
Yeah, I think he started in late '83. Okay.
The crowd, when we were announcing there, we were maybe 30 feet, 40 feet away from the ring. Small building, maybe it could put 800 people in it. Really, it was downstairs. Echo chamber. It was, we had to use different lights, small lights. And you were right next to the fans. You couldn't, even if you wanted to, you couldn't get away from them. And you truly felt that you were part of it. You were in amongst the people. And yes, I love Spartanburg. I love doing TV there. Yeah, because you're so close and it's just echoing in your ears the whole time, the fans.
It's just fascinating, man. I just love taking a look at these old documents. And here's another one that's a real head scratcher. You got to think, man, I wish there was a tape of that. Washington, North Carolina. The main event is Ric Flair tagging with Magnum TA. Now, remember, the Horsemen are a thing here. And we got Flair teaming with Magnum to take on Blanchard and Wahoo. Of course, Flair's been having matches with Wahoo. Magnum's been having matches with Blanchard. This is interesting. This is a storytelling device, but there's no TV, but the fans were in for a treat that day and they turned out 5,700 fans. And we'll finish up the month of January on Thursday, the 31st. 2 shows that day. Mineral, West Virginia was treated with Flair versus Blanchard. And then we had Slater teaming with Tyler against Graham and the Barbarian. Iva, South Carolina got Kernoodle versus Ivan Koloff. Kernoodle is enjoying the run of his career here with the Russians.
Yes, he is.
You know what?
Yeah, right. This was his big deal. His chance. Don took it and ran with it. I am so sorry that, he decided at one point to take his life.
Yeah.
Not that long ago. But yeah. Don, I remember, Don started with us when he answered the challenge. Buddy Rogers, the figure four, how long could you stand it? He came to the TV taping in Charlotte, and he took it for a certain period of time. Then he had to give up. But, we like what we saw, and that's how he started.
Well, that's going to wrap up January of 1985. I can't wait for us to talk about the formation of the Four Horsemen, for us to talk about you guys going back on the Crockett returning to TBS. We're going to see lots of other Dusty innovations, the Great American Bash, and so on and so on. It's 1985 was probably the greatest year of Jim Crockett Promotions at that point. I think as far as top line revenue and tickets sold and all that, you would have enjoyed more success in 85 than 84 or any other year. And that train would continue. 86 would somehow top it and be even bigger. But when did you realize, man, we got something? We're hot. Was it after you're back on TBS, or could you tell we had momentum in January here?
I want to say it's when we got back on TBS.
Yeah.
Really, that was it, because we were trying to figure out how to protect ourselves, from the giant from the north, and that we didn't have. TBS was the way to advertise to all of our fans that had cable or had dishes. Back then, you had the big dish that you could watch, TBS on. And that made us special. TBS made us special. That, yes, we had 82 stations that we syndicated our shows to, but TBS was, the one that we could really shoot an angle on, and it would go everywhere.
Right.
That we didn't have to worry about, well, did the Mid-Atlantic show in Richmond, or Worldwide show in Richmond, or did we have both TV tapes in Richmond? Can we, vice versa? You put it on TBS and you got it. And two, TBS became such a fun. I mean, we flew by the seat of our pants the whole time we were there. I mean, Miss Atlanta Lively, Ron Garvin dressed up in drag. Oh, just everything and anything that would go on there. Tony, I guess Tony would tell you, I know I would. Every Saturday, yes, we'd get up early, and yes, we'd be there, but man, we were pumped up that whole day. And it was so much fun. So much fun.
Well, I had a lot of fun with you today. I can't wait to talk about this more. Of course, we've got the book for the whole year, so we're going to be back talking about February before you know it. But then when we get into March, that is the month where WrestleMania debuts. Now, of course, it happens at the very end of the month, but I'll be darned, more than 2 weeks prior to that, you guys ran another super show in Greensboro at the Coliseum, Silver Star 85. Let's think about that. Silver Star 85. It's shown by closed circuit all over the region, including the Greenville Memorial Auditorium. It's going to be Flair and Wahoo in an Indian strap match. It's just a loaded card. Baby dolls in the mix. There's so much fun that we're going to have talking about 1985. We hope you guys have had nearly as much fun as I have today. Just taking a look at these old books, man, and seeing your brother's handwriting and knowing all of the history that exists in these papers. And I just can't thank you enough for the opportunity to dig through them and celebrate the moments that made Jim Crockett so special.
Well, Conrad, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. The history is truly, it's a lot of fun going back and remembering. There were so many good times along with some others, but yeah, I look forward to doing more. And I'll have to say that, if you fans out there have any questions, please let us know.
Yes.
And we'll try to answer them. If not, I'll make up something. Who knows?
Drop it below if you've got a question about what we went over today. We'll address it at the top of the very next edition of the book. We're going to get back together, of course, and have a lot of fun talking about February of 1985. Man, I can't thank you enough. This was so much fun. Looking forward to doing it again real soon, right here on the book.